Between 230 million to 500 million people consider themselves to be Buddhists. Now, what is a Buddhist? Well, no matter what school of thought you have in Buddhism, there's basically one thing that's absolutely true, and that is that you are to release all of your connections with the things that don't last, things that cause you pain when you don't have enough of them, things that you crave, things that you seek so that you can have a sort of temporary pleasure from life, all these things. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, where's all the, the humming and the chanting and the bowls that you strike with the little stick and the lotus blossom and those images that you see in Chinese restaurants? Well, where's that? Well, that's the problem. That's why I'm doing this video. Most people around Western society hear about Buddhism in the form that's mostly Zen, which is called Chan in China, and Nichiren Buddhism, and some of the more new forms. Pure Land is another one. There's a lot of different forms of Buddhism that are of the new kind. And the thing is, a lot of people who are Buddhists are of the new school. And you really don't hear about the sort of orthodox, traditional Buddhism that existed before. The kind of Buddhism you'll most likely hear about is called Mahayana. Mahayana is the form that you'll see in these countries right here. Okay, so you can obviously tell that these are Asian countries. They're the countries that you would most likely associate with Buddhism, right? That's fair. Problem is, the older form of Buddhism is found in countries that you don't really hear about. And their teachings are teachings that you don't usually get to see. For one thing, there's this notion that comes up when people talk about Buddhism where you need to attain some of the enlightenment, and then you'll learn enough to teach other people the enlightenment, and then you'll be enlightened after that. Almost like a sort of a graduate degree program of Buddhism. Now, obviously that's a very new form of Buddhism that's being talked about here. This is not the kind of thing that gets talked about in the older form of Buddhism, where even if you don't teach it to other people, you can still be enlightened. And that older form is called Theravada. Theravada is found in these countries, okay? And to some extent you'll find them in certain pockets of China and India. That's roughly between a little less than half or even a little less than a fifth of all Buddhists are of the old school. And these are the countries where you'll find it being the predominant religion. So here's the deal. Even if you just want to learn a few things about Buddhism, or if you want to become a Buddhist, or if you have a friend that's Buddhist and you just want to get to know that person a little more, you really need to ask them what school of Buddhism they're in. Because you could be getting information that's going to completely confuse or even offend people if you're not careful. Case in point, you walk up to a friend. The friend is a Buddhist. The friend wants to talk to you about Buddhism. You want to talk about how you want to believe that the soul lives on. Let's say you're a Christian and you believe that the soul is eternal. And you're walking up to somebody who is Theravada. You want to talk about, oh, well, where does the soul go in Buddhism when you die? What happens to the spirit? What happens to all that information that you've learned? Do you come back in a new life? Do you get reincarnated? Does that happen in Buddhism? And the person's going to look at you and say, hey, the whole point is that you're not trying to stay with the body. You're not trying to be dependent on this sort of, we're going to live on and we're going to have a life after death. That's the point. Stop trying to hold on to life. Now again, that's certain Buddhists. There are other Buddhists that believe, like the Mahayana, that you'll usually find in Japan, China, Korea, those places. Most of them believe in the sutra called the Nirvana Sutra. By the way, a sutra is nothing more than a text, a very important text that is central to a specific religion. It could be a Hindu text, or it could be a Buddhist text. Now, the Nirvana Sutra puts a lot of emphasis on this whole reincarnation stuff. That's not the way it is in old Buddhism. Old Buddhism doesn't put the emphasis on reincarnation. It puts the emphasis on just trying to attain the enlightenment now. Don't worry about what happens later. Just try as best as you can to figure things out here in the now. Now, you have to ask yourself a question. Which are you more comfortable with? Because the problem is, the entire point of Buddhism is to let go of that which you cling, the things that don't last. Like the job, like how your body looks when you become 50, like your education when things change and you learn new stuff. My personal belief, though, and I'm not imposing this on you, but my personal belief is that we do not live, really, after life. There is no afterlife, but the energy that is in us is used in a different way. That's all it is. So it's not really reincarnation, we're just being used in another form. So that's my take on that. Now, if you disagree or if I've said something completely wrong, let me know. But it's very important that we know the differences between the different Buddhist traditions. Peace. Take care.